My family called me bad with money. They asked for help months later. I parked my 2012 Honda Civic a block away from my parents' house. I did this on purpose. I knew that if I parked in the driveway right next to my brother's brand new leased Range Rover, the comments would start before I even walked through the front door. Before we continues, please subscribe and leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. Your support helps this powerful, life-changing story reach the world. My car had a dent in the rear bumper and the paint was peeling on the hood, but the engine ran perfectly. It was paid off. It was reliable. But to my family it was a symbol of my failure. I took a deep breath, clutching the store-bought apple pie I had picked up on the way. It was Thanksgiving, the holiday where we were supposed to be grateful, but in the Miller household, it was the holiday where we compared achievements. Or rather, where my family compared their achievements to my apparent lack of them. My brother, Jason, was a real estate agent who specialized in luxury condos. My sister, Sarah, was married to a plastic surgeon. And then there was me, Mark, the accountant who lived in a one-bedroom apartment and drove a beater. I walked up the driveway hearing the loud laughter coming from inside. I braced myself. I knew exactly how this night was going to go. There he is. Jason shouted as I walked in. He was holding a glass of expensive scotch, wearing a watch that probably cost more than my entire car. The man of the hour. Did you walk here, Mark? Or did that lawnmower of yours finally break down? The room erupted in laughter. My mother rushed over to hug me, but even her hug felt filled with pity. Oh, Mark, honey, she whispered. We really need to talk about getting you a loan for a decent vehicle. It's unsafe. It gets me from A to B, Mom, I said, forcing a smile. I placed the pie on the table, which was already groaning under the weight of gourmet food. There were truffles, imported cheeses and wines with names I couldn't pronounce. It's not about A to B, Sarah chimed in, swirling her wine. It's about self-respect. You're 30 years old. You shouldn't be living like a college student. It makes us look, well, it worries us. She didn't say, it makes us look bad, but I heard it loud and clear. To them, money was something you displayed. If you didn't show it, you didn't have it. We sat down for dinner. The conversation immediately turned to money. It always did. Jason talked about a commission he just made on a penthouse downtown. 30 grand in one pop, he bragged, stabbing a piece of turkey. I'm taking Lisa to the Maldives next month. First class. My father nodded approvingly. That's how you do it, son. You have to spend money to make money. You have to look the part. Then the spotlight turned to me. So, Mark, my father said, his voice dropping an octave. How is the accounting going? Still pinching pennies? It's good, Dad, I said quietly. I actually just maxed out my 401k for the year. Silence fell over the table. Jason snorted. Your 401k? Mark, that's dead money. You lock it away for 40 years until you're too old to enjoy it. You need to leverage your cash. Live a little. I prefer stability, I said. Stability? Jason laughed. Bro, you're just bad with money. You're scared of it. You hoard it because you don't know how to multiply it. Bad with money. The phrase hung in the air. It stung because it was so far from the truth. But I couldn't tell them the truth. I couldn't tell them that while Jason was leasing cars and Sarah was financing vacations, I was building an empire in the shadows. I lived on 20% of my income. The rest went into a diverse portfolio of index funds, dividend stocks, and 2 modest rental properties I had bought under an LLC. I wasn't scared of money. I respected it. My family treated money like water, something to be poured out freely because the tap would always be running. I treated money like a seed, something to be planted and watched. But looking at their designer clothes and hearing their travel stories, I felt a twinge of doubt. Was I missing out? Was I just a miser? I looked at my frayed cuffs and then at Jason's Rolex. For a second I felt small. Maybe they were right. Maybe I was just surviving while they were living. We have a surprise, my mother announced over dessert. For Dad's 60th birthday in 6 months, we are all going to rent a villa in Tuscany. It's going to be $5,000 per person. We've already put down the deposit. She looked at me expectantly. $5,000. That was a lot of money for a 1-week trip. I did the math in my head. That $5,000 invested at a 7% return would be worth nearly $40,000 by the time I retired. I don't think I can make it, I said. That's a bit outside my budget right now. The disappointment in the room was palpable. Oh, come on, Mark, Jason groaned. Just put it on a credit card. I'll show you how to churn the points. Stop being so cheap. It's not about being cheap, I said, my voice tightening. It's just not a priority for me right now. Not a priority? My father snapped. Family isn't a priority? This is exactly what I mean. You manage other people's money all day, but you can't manage your own life. You're failing, Mark. And it's embarrassing. The drive home that night was silent. I didn't even turn on the radio. My father's words echoed in my head. You're failing. I pulled into the parking lot of my apartment complex. It wasn't glamorous. The paint was peeling on the building and the neighbors were loud. But my rent was only $800 a month. Jason's mortgage on his dream home was $4,500. I walked into my apartment and opened my laptop. I logged into my brokerage account. The screen refreshed, showing a number that would have made my father choke on his wine. $850,000. I wasn't a millionaire yet, but I was close. I had started investing when I was 18. I never touched the principal. I drove a beater not because I had to, but because a car payment would slow down the compound interest. I wasn't failing. I was winning a game they didn't even know we were playing. But staring at the screen, I felt lonely. Being right is cold comfort when your own family thinks you're a loser. The next few months were a blur. I stopped going to Sunday dinners. I claimed I was busy with tax season, which wasn't entirely a lie, but mostly I just wanted to avoid the lectures. I saw their lives play out on social media. Jason posted photos of his new boat. Sarah posted videos of her closet renovation. My parents posted updates about the upcoming Tuscany trip, tagging me with captions like, "Wish Mark could figure it out." But while they were posting, the economy was shifting. Inflation was ticking up. Interest rates were rising. The housing market, which Jason's entire lifestyle depended on, was starting to cool. I saw the signs in the financial reports I read every morning. The easy money era was ending. I tightened my budget even further, moving more cash into secure bonds. I prepared for the storm. My family, however, kept dancing on the deck of the Titanic, assuming the music would never stop. The first crack appeared in April. I got a text from Jason. "Hey bro, quick question. Do you know anything about crypto tax loopholes?" Asking for a client. I knew it wasn't for a client. I called him. "Jason, did you lose money?" I asked. He laughed, but it sounded forced. "What? No. Just moving some assets around. The market is a little choppy, you know? Just temporary. Be careful," I warned him. "Rates are going up. If you have variable debt, you need to pay it off." "Okay, Warren Buffett," he sneered. "Thanks for the advice. Stick to your spreadsheets. I'm playing in the big leagues." He hung up. I shook my head. He didn't understand that the big leagues ruthlessly punished people who were over-leveraged. And Jason was leveraged to the hilt. June arrived. The Tuscany trip was 2 weeks away. I hadn't bought a ticket. I was sitting in my office when my phone rang. It was my mother. Her voice sounded strange, tight, high-pitched. "Mark? Are you busy?" "No, Mom, what's up?" "Well, it's about the trip," she said. We might have to postpone it." "Why?" I asked. "Is Dad okay?" "Dad is fine," she said quickly. "It's just Jason. He's having a little cash flow issue. The market has slowed down and he can't cover his share. And Sarah? Well, her husband's practice is being audited. It's just a bad time." I paused. "So you're canceling because they can't pay?" "It's not that they can't pay," she snapped defensively. "It's just liquidity. Anyway, since you weren't going, I thought maybe, well, never mind." She hung up. She had called to ask for money, but her pride wouldn't let her finish the sentence. I didn't offer to help. I knew that if I gave them money now, it would just go into a black hole. They needed to feel the consequences of their spending. A week later, I saw Jason's boat listed for sale on Facebook Marketplace. The caption read, "Sad to see her go, but upgrading to something bigger soon." What? He was selling it to cover his mortgage. I checked the public records. A notice of default had been filed on his property. He was 3 months behind on payments. My brother, the rich one, was 90 days away from foreclosure. I felt a knot in my stomach. I didn't want him to fail. I loved my brother. But he had called me bad with money, while he was digging his own grave with a golden shovel. Things unraveled fast after that. The audit on Sarah's husband turned out to be a lawsuit. He had botched a surgery and his malpractice insurance was fighting the claim. His assets were frozen. My parents, who had co-signed on Jason's business loans to help him expand, were suddenly getting calls from creditors. I continued to live my life. I went to work. I ate my homemade sandwiches. And then one Tuesday I hit my milestone. The market had a rally, and my portfolio crossed the 7-figure mark. $1,002,450. I was a millionaire. I sat in my beat-up car in the parking lot and just stared at the steering wheel. I was rich. Truly, securely rich. And nobody knew. I bought myself a nice steak for dinner to celebrate. I ate it alone in my kitchen, listening to the hum of the refrigerator. 2 days later, my father called. "Mark, we need to have a family meeting. Tonight." His voice was grave. "Is everything okay?" I asked. "Just come over," he said. I drove to the house. When I arrived, the driveway was empty. Jason's Range Rover was gone. Sarah's Porsche was gone. There was just my parents' sedan and my Honda. I walked inside. The house was dark. My parents, Jason and Sarah, were sitting at the kitchen table. Nobody was drinking wine. Nobody was eating truffles. Jason looked like he hadn't slept in a week. His eyes were red and he was unshaven. Sarah was crying softly. My father looked 10 years older. "Sit down, Mark," my father said. "We have a problem," my father began. He looked at Jason. Jason took a deep breath, his hands shaking. I lost the house," Jason whispered. "The bank took it this morning. The boat didn't sell in time. I owe a lot of money." "How much?" I asked. "Credit cards, business loans, the car lease. It's about 200,000, Jason said, looking at the floor. "And it's not just him," my mother added, tears streaming down her face. "We co-signed Mark. They are coming after our house. They said if we don't pay the arrears on Jason's loans by Friday, they will put a lien on this property." "How much is the immediate payment?" I asked. $50,000, my father said. "We don't have it. Our retirement is tied up in annuities we can't touch yet. We are tapped out." The silence was deafening. They were all looking at me. But they weren't looking at me with hope. They were looking at me with desperation, expecting me to say, "I told you so," or, "I can't help." "We know you don't have much," Sarah said, wiping her eyes. "We know you struggle. But do you have anything? Maybe 5,000? If we all pool our savings." I looked at them. They still didn't get it. They still thought I was the poor one. They thought I was struggling because I didn't buy things. "I don't have $5,000 to lend you," I said slowly. Jason put his head in his hands. "We're screwed. We're actually screwed." "You don't understand," I continued. "I don't have 5,000 to lend. Because lending money to family ruins relationships." "Mark, please," my mother begged. "This isn't the time for a lecture on frugality. We are about to lose our home." "I'm not lecturing," I said. "I'm negotiating." I reached into my backpack and pulled out my laptop. I opened it and placed it on the table. "I can't lend you the money. But I can fix this." "How?" Jason asked, lifting his head. "You drive a 2012 Honda. How are you going to fix a $50,000 problem?" I turned the laptop screen toward them. I didn't show them the total. I just logged into my checking account, my liquid cash fund. It showed a balance of $65,000. "I can write a check for the arrears today," I said. They stared at the screen. Jason's mouth fell open. "What? Oh, did you win the lottery?" "No," I said calmly. "I saved. I invested. I lived below my means for 12 years while you guys laughed at me." I looked at my father. "You told me I was failing because I didn't look rich. But this is what rich looks like, Dad. It looks like having cash when you need it." "Mark," my mother gasped. You have that much just sitting there?" "That's just my emergency fund," I lied. It was actually my next property down payment, but the point stood. "I can pay the bank. I can save the house. But I have conditions." "Anything," my father said. "We'll do anything. We'll pay you back with interest." "I don't want interest," I said. "Here is the deal. I pay the $50,000 to clear the immediate debt. In exchange, you are going to transfer the title of this house into a trust. I will control the trust." "You want to take our house?" my mother shouted. "No," I said. "I want to protect it. Because clearly you guys can't." I turned to Jason. "And you? You are going to file for bankruptcy. It's the only way to clear the rest of the debt." "I can't," Jason cried. "It will ruin my reputation. I'm a luxury agent." "You're a broke agent," I snapped. "You have no reputation left. You file or I walk out that door and let the bank take Mom and Dad's house." The room was heavy with tension. My family was seeing me for the first time. I wasn't the little brother anymore. I was the one holding the lifeline. They had mocked me for years, called me cheap, called me bad with money. And now, I was the only thing standing between them and homelessness. "I also want to see all your finances," I said to my parents. "Every credit card, every statement. If I do this, I am taking over the household budget. No more Tuscany trips. No more leased cars. You live on what you make. My father looked at my mother. He looked defeated. But he nodded. Okay, he whispered. Okay, Mark. You win. It's not about winning, Dad, I said, softening my tone. It's about survival. You guys have been playing a game of pretend. It's time to wake up. I wrote the check. I handed it to my father. His hands shook as he took it. It was a flimsy piece of paper, but it carried the weight of my entire lifestyle. Thank you, he said, his voice cracking. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, I said. Just cash it before noon tomorrow. I packed up my laptop. I stood up to leave. Where are you going? Mom asked. Home, I said. I have work in the morning. I walked out to my Honda. Jason followed me. He stood by the driver's door looking at the dent in the bumper. He didn't make a joke this time. I'm sorry, he said quietly. For everything. For the comments. For being a jerk. It's okay, Jason, I said. Just learn from it. You're really a millionaire? He asked, his eyes wide. Let's just say I'm comfortable, I replied. How did you do it? Really? I stopped trying to impress people I don't care about, I said. And I started buying assets instead of liabilities. The next few months were hard. Jason filed for bankruptcy. It was humiliating for him, but it wiped the slate clean. He lost the Range Rover and had to get a used Toyota. He started working as a property manager instead of a sales agent. A steady salary, no commissions. He hated it at first, but he learned to live within a budget. My parents were the hardest to manage. I cut up their credit cards. I canceled their country club membership. My mother cried for a week about the social stigma, but she eventually realized that her real friends didn't care about her membership status. They were learning the lesson I had learned at 20. Freedom is better than status. Thanksgiving came around again. This time there were no truffles. There was no expensive scotch. We had a simple turkey, mashed potatoes, and the same store-bought apple pie I always brought. The atmosphere was different. It was quieter, but it was real. There was no posturing. No bragging. Mark, my father said during dinner, I want to make a toast. He raised his glass of water. We cut the wine budget. To Mark. The only one of us who actually knew what he was doing. My throat tightened. Thanks, Dad, I said. But we're all doing it now. After dinner, Sarah pulled me aside. She had sold the Porsche and downgraded to a sensible SUV. I started a Roth IRA, she whispered like she was confessing a crime. I put $500 in it. I smiled. That's how it starts, Sarah. Keep going. Was strange. I used to hate these gatherings. I used to feel like the outcast. Now I was the mentor. They came to me for advice on interest rates, on savings accounts, on grocery budgeting. The dynamic had completely flipped. The bad with money brother was now the family CFO. I drove home that night in my Honda. It had hit 200,000 miles on the odometer. The dashboard light was flickering. I patted the dashboard. Good girl, I muttered. One more year. I could have bought a Ferrari cash. I could have bought Jason's old house. But I didn't want to. I realized that money wasn't just a tool for survival, it was a tool for protection. It allowed me to save my family from their own stupidity. It gave me the power to forgive them not just with words but with action. They had called me names, but when the fire came, I was the one with the water. I parked in my spot. I looked up at the stars. I wasn't angry anymore. I felt a sense of peace. I opened my banking app one last time. $1,075,000. The number didn't define me, but it comforted me. My family finally understood. Being good with money isn't about what you spend. It's about what you keep. And sometimes, the person with the oldest car has the biggest safety net. I went inside, slept soundly, and woke up the next morning to do it all again. Because the real flex isn't a trip to Tuscany. It's sleeping at night knowing you're safe.